Tonight on America's Hope, we focus on the continuing crisis at the border. All that and more coming up next on America's Hope. Good evening, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope, and we hope that wherever you are, that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. And you know, that's what matters to the people that I've spoken to recently in Texas, people living along the U.S.-Mexico border. The southern border, they say, is porous, it's wide open, and many illegal immigrants are coming in, posing all sorts of dangers for people trying to do the simple thing of taking care of themselves and their families. So I went there to get beyond the political hijinks that has been going on and the political chess game that has been going on and all the maneuvering. Politics does one thing, but people living their lives, that's another thing. And I wanted to hear from the people there. So we're going to focus on the people yet again. We're going to hear from the Kinney County attorney. We're also going to hear from people working at the Cornerstone Children's Ranch to see what they're doing to help save children who are being smuggled into this country because of the high demand for child exploitation. And then we're going to hear from a lady who's been living along the border for most of her life. She's from Kinney County, Texas, the epicenter of what's going on in terms of illegal immigration. She'll talk to us about what she sees and the dangers that she believes is lurking for the future of America. And so that's our focus tonight. Let's get started with Kinney County attorney Brent Smith, who's talking about the cartels having an operational control over the border.
Kinney County was the first county in Texas to declare a declaration of disaster back in 2021. We were the first county in Texas to file a declaration of invasion in 22. And just the other day, the governor did. And it took 52 counties. Oh, so far, 52 counties have declared invasion in Texas. And I think that means a lot for Texas. The counties have spoken. The local officials have supported the governor and urged him to do this. And so that's what he did.
What's your response to the critics who say, oh, there's no invasion? You guys are using hyperbole.
Let them come down to the border and live here for a few weeks and go out on their property at night, and they'll sing a different tune.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is in America, a man's castle is his home, and
Right.
And yet many American people, as you've stated, living here in Kinney County, and also along the border of Texas and other borders, they've kind of lost that sanctity of having their home protected, even if they're. I talked to one rancher who says he can't go out without having a pistol.
You know, there's a lot of people that they're so frustrated and they're tired of having to look over their shoulder on their own property, not knowing what they can do. You know, when I grew up here, I could go out and play as long as I stayed in, distance of my mom yelling out the front door to come
Exactly.
home. Now you don't get out of, sight distance from someone there. Like, they have to watch you constantly because people just, walking through your property, not knowing who they are or where they're going, and they don't want to get caught by law enforcement. They likely have criminal records, and so they're wanting to evade law enforcement. The cartels have an influence in Kinney County, just like any other border county. Like I stated earlier, they have operational control of the entire border right now. Maybe less, not in Shelby Park, but other areas of the border that aren't fortified, they do have operational control. And so the influence of the cartels is mainly with the money. They extort people. The money is just too much of an attractant for them. And so as far as the cartel violence goes, we've had several times where I call them cartel operatives, human smugglers. They're getting paid by the cartels. They've had gunfights with the sheriff's office during pursuits. We've actually had one citizen that was run off the road because she was fired at by the cartel member who was being chased by DPS. And in an effort to make DPS stop the chase, he took out his pistol and began firing into oncoming traffic, hitting this young lady's car several times, forcing her off the road. Luckily, DPS did not stop the pursuit, and they did apprehend him. But, just driving down the road now, you're getting shot at by the cartel. And so they are definitely an influence in Texas here. And it's something I believe that, the state of Texas has to address adequately. If the federal government does it, we have to. Doing nothing is not a choice.
So do we need the military here?
I think the military on the border, on the river, to ensure the traffic going back and forth, the illegal traffic on the river, is absolutely necessary. We don't have, typical law enforcement doesn't have the personnel or the equipment to handle that type of job. Now, once they're on the roadways in Texas, law enforcement does have the training and the equipment to handle that. But to prevent them coming over to begin with, until we have a border infrastructure up, we have to have operational control. Because once it crosses the river, the amount of resources needed to try to apprehend and detect and prevent it going any further into the United States, it just grows. The easiest solution is stopping it at the river itself.
Over your shoulder, there's a sign that says, "Come and take it."
Yeah, my ancestors actually fought in that battle. That was the first battle of the Texas Revolution. In that case, it was a cannon that a lot of Texans had, and the Mexican government didn't like them having the cannon. And so they tried to come and confiscate it, and they're like, no. And so they told the Mexican government, come and take it then. And that's what sparked the Texas Revolution. Texans have never succumbed to tyranny, in my opinion. Every time it's tried to occur, we've put up a fight, and we're not going to allow it. And to a lot of Texans today, what the federal government has become is a tyrannical administration telling us we can't protect our own citizens. We can't protect our state. We can't put barbed wire up. We can't do things that preserve the sovereignty of Texas. And we just kind of shake our head and smile like, yeah, we can. Watch us. And so that's where we're at today. And that's why I said earlier, I think the next 12 months is going to determine the next 100 years for this country, because the issues that are decided will not only affect Texas, but other states. It won't only be about immigration, but other issues. What can states do to protect their own sovereignty and preserve the safety and security of their citizens?
That leads me to a follow-up question. Over my shoulder, your grandmother painted something for you with a statement from Amos, the book of Amos in the Bible. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's, it says, hate the evil and love the good and ensure that justice is done at the gates. And the gates in biblical times was the courts where legal contracts and trials were had. And I think that kind of goes back to the principal issue is what are we trying to accomplish as leaders who are elected? We have to keep those things in mind, establishing justice, making sure justice is done, and representing the people that were voted to do that. And I think that's the underlying principle that we have lost as a nation, and we desperately have got to find that again.
Brent, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next on America's Hope, we continue our focus on the crisis at the border as we talk to members of the Cornerstone Children's Ranch to hear their stories about how they're reaching out to help rescue children. And welcome back to America's Hope as we continue our focus, crisis at the border. While I was there, I was outside of Del Rio, Texas, and was able to meet with a group of people who were part of a trucker convoy, if you will, to actually show support for people living along the border. But then I also met people who are operating the Cornerstone Children's Ranch, and their stories about how they're reaching out to rescue children who are being abducted in foreign countries and actually dragged or smuggled across our U.S.-Mexico border. Here's their story. So what's the name of this children's ranch?
This is the Cornerstone Children's Ranch.
And its founding was for what purpose?
It was founding to help kids and for schools, and then COVID-19 kind of wiped it out, and then this border crisis. So we converted it to help out ranchers. Usually when there's like a flood of immigrants that come in over down in Eagle Pass, the cartels will actually run the children, the goods, everything, even cattle up here in this area and up near Kinney County. So we go to ranchers that need the help, because you can see the rape kits that they leave. They feed the kids the cat food in their packs, and then they leave the trash behind, and then they run their vans and take the kids. And we tried to apprehend them is pretty much what it is, and then we work with law enforcement and we try to get them the help that they need.
So wait a minute. You're telling me that because of the human trafficking that some of these cartels are doing with smuggling kids in, you're kind of like a first line of defense for them, for those children?
That's correct, because CBP and the police can't go on private property, and the cartels know that, so they travel it through private property. And so we have volunteers that come out and defend the ranches.
Talk to me about the children that you've been able to help so far. What has been their state of condition, and how have you been able to help them get through this devastating turn of their lives?
It's trauma. I'll just say that. They're terrified. They don't want to be here. They don't necessarily understand what's going on until it's too late. I can't even describe it. It's so bad. I know that on Christmas, they're not even just trafficked by cartels. They're trafficked in itself with the migrant resource centers, like up in San Antonio. We were there following the wave, and the cartel were outside of the MRCs, and they would traffic the kids from there. I have so much video on that as well. The greatest save so far, and the most alarming, is that there are the migrants will come here, the females, they'll be pregnant, and when the baby's born, it's an American. And Americans can't stay in a migrant resource center, so they give the moms the choice of stay here, but the baby can't. And so they'll kick them out of the MRC, so they don't get the housing, they don't get the allowances, that little card. They don't get that. They don't get the cell phone. So the cartel will be outside waiting for them, and that's their cash grab. And we actually rescued on Christmas Eve a 7-day-old baby. And that was pretty amazing. And then we had a group of volunteers, churches, that would take them in and get them to the proper help that they needed.
So Kimberly, I've got to ask you, what do you think, through your experience, is the solution to this crisis for the children coming across this border, and what's the solution?
The solution is obviously the wall would actually help. Presence is also a great deterrent. And then just letting the American people know exactly how bad the cartel are. I mean, they've dang near taken all of South America at this point. We need to have stronger policies against cartels, and especially here and their actions here in the United States, because the cartels actually own properties right here, like that one right there. And
you're telling me the property across the street from us,
yes,
is owned by a cartel?
Yes, it is. And the police here know that, but they won't move. We should actually have legislation where cartel members can't own property. Any affiliations with cartels, there should be some citizenship definitely revoked, I believe, on that part. And definitely harsh punishments for what they're doing.
Have you given up hope that things can get better?
No. I tell you what, when you save one child, I know it's a drop in the bucket, but that's everything. That's that world to that child, so it's worth it. Absolutely worth it. So I know it's not much, but it's effective.
Kimberly, thank you. Thank you. So look, the work that you're doing here, we're 1,500 feet from the border?
Less than 300 yards.
Less than 300 yards.
Yeah.
The children. I was just talking to Kimberly about what you do here to help children who have been smuggled, trafficked. How bad is it?
It's pretty bad. I mean, the things that we see out here, it just gets at you. It really does. And it's very hard to deal with that. But when you've got good people in your corner that help you work through those problems, it is amazing. It really is.
What got you started and involved in this particular aspect of illegal immigration?
We all have God-given rights as human beings. As human beings, no matter where we're from. When you come here to this country, we believe in those God-given rights. And to have someone sign those away in this country, that's appalling. I cannot stand for that. Texas Independence Project is a humanitarian, constitutional organization that is faith-based.
And so because of that faith, you're now applying that on the front lines to help children, save children.
Yes, that is exactly what we're doing.
And the children who are coming to you or that you're rescuing or releasing from the hands of the cartel, what have they gone through?
I don't know if y'all have heard the rumors, but all the rumors, they're pretty much true for the most part.
So you're talking about sexploitation, human trafficking, prostitution, drug dealing, or even drug smuggling through a child.
And we're looking into the organ harvesting as well.
Wow.
Yeah. If we find out that that one's true as well and we get enough evidence together for that one, yeah.
Are you fearful for what you do, knowing that the cartels can threaten you and other U.S. citizens here along the border?
It's like everybody keeps telling me, if I'm scared, everyone else will be scared. So no, I'm not.
So you're walking by faith then?
I am walking with faith.
Yeah.
My faith in the good Lord.
What's your hope for America?
My hope for America is that we will close the border. We will deal with the people that we have here, deport the bad ones, keep the good ones. Because the good ones, like Judge Benitez, who himself immigrated from Cuba, in California, they call him Saint Benitez. They do. 2A advocate, great American patriot. That's what we need to create in this country. We need to make sure that everyone understands that America is a melting pot, not just of races, but also of faith. We need to come together as one, as a people. That is my belief. That is how I was raised by my dad, Kenneth Dean Stearns.
Keep helping the children here. Thank you. And I see you last stand with Texas.
I do. I stand with this great state.
There's still more to come on America's Hope. Coming up next, we'll be talking to Kelly Perry, a political activist and someone who's very concerned about what's taking place on the border. She feels America is under threat. That's next. And welcome back to America's Hope. Joining me now is Kelly Perry. She is a political activist, but also one who is very much involved in trying to activate people all around this country to understand what's happening on the border, a place where she lives in Kinney County. She joins us now. Kelly, it's good to have you on the program. I wanted to ask you what you're going through personally as you encounter the same situations that your neighbors do there in Kinney County and other parts of Texas along the Mexico border.
It's a fear that's with you all the time. You are glad that DPS has stepped in. You are glad our law enforcement is out there. I'm glad for help to come. I'm glad for every step that they show. However, the damage is so strong and it's going to go on. To me, I think it'll be generational. I think it will. Even when my grandkids come to visit, we go on golf cart rides. You got to carry. You can't go without. You can't.
Oh, and when you say you and your grandkids going on the golf course or with golf cart rides, you've got to carry. You're not talking about carrying clubs. You're talking about carrying firearms.
I'm talking about carrying firearms. I wouldn't dare go anywhere on where I live any longer, which was, heaven. Everyone went there. Everyone wanted. It's just a small town. Now you carry a firearm. You cannot go. I wouldn't even go walking without one.
So You know, I've asked a couple of people there, people that you know, rancher Wayne King, Wanda Selby, an 86-year-old woman, even County Attorney Brent Smith, and of course, not far from you in Del Rio, Texas, Allison Anderson, and all of them have talked about what it's like to feel fearful for your children and their future. You talked about this may go on for generations if something is not done to better secure the border. What are you challenging Americans to understand about what you're dealing with there?
3 years ago, when Biden took office and all this changed, um, my mind, I have a busy mind, as you will, and we began asking, where's the girls? All the numbers that we were getting, this was new to us. This was a new kind of a battle, an activist. I just happened to live in the middle of it. And we started looking at numbers, and immediately we were going, where's the girl numbers? Meaning that, this many children or boys have been put into Dilley, or this one's been Carrizo Springs, or there were no numbers for girls. We couldn't find them. They didn't exist. We called our congressman. He didn't have a clue. We kept going up the ladder and going up the ladder. They couldn't find them. They couldn't find them. And most people wouldn't think of it as a duty. It was placed on my heart early on to start asking those hard questions. And that's 3 years ago. Add up that many days of people disappearing. There wasn't accountability of any kind. Boy, it sure was easy for them to set up, human trafficking and sex trafficking. So many people, their minds don't go there. They don't think of what this really, really means to us, as a state, as a country, our schools. It's going to change the whole landscape of everything. You've got kids being put into schools with children, and we're used to life a certain way. We try to raise our kids with certain morals and values. You've got kids coming in from third world countries. They're not counseled. Nothing's changed. They think murder in the streets is just, that's part of everyday life. Those children are going to become adults. Where does that, it's not going to just stop. So those children are going to school with your children, and I have a good heart. I would like to change everybody's lives. They just have to go through certain systems. And we welcome all children. All children are welcome in the United States. No oversight, no, or when they come in, are they being put in a worse situation than what they came from? Because, anytime you attack dollar signs to anything, and I'm glad that there are homes for them to go to that we're paying for, but who's going to fix their problems? Those children come in. We see a lot of it as mental illness because it's completely different, separate than the way that we live, and want our children and grandchildren to have values. The more they outnumber you or your children or the next generation, the more that will become the norm. And what we know as, you get up and go to school, you do the best you can, you become the best person you can. You want to grow into an adult to provide for your children, live by the word. That's gonna go out it's gonna be a very small minority. It's gonna be different.
I want to talk to you more about the children. I want to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about a very important element in terms of what's happening there at the border, and that's the smuggling of children into America, and the fact that there are some people on the front lines trying to help save those children from being trafficked. I'm talking to Kelly Perry. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to America's Hope. So I'm joined by Kelly Perry, and we've been talking about her plight along the border. She is a resident of Kinney County, but she also knows a lot of people throughout the state, including the governor and other politicos there. But beyond the politics, she's concerned about what's happening on the ground as it relates to her family. Kelly, you mentioned, and I find it shocking, you mentioned that when your grandchildren are with you, when you're on a golf cart, you are packing. You're not packing golf clubs per se. You're packing arms, weapons, in case you are confronted by illegal immigrants who may possibly cause you harm. I'd just like you to go over that again, because I don't think everyone throughout America understands that. I mean, they've seen some visible evidence of the violence with MS-13 operating in places like New York, as well as what many people saw just a couple of weeks ago with 2 police officers in New York City being pummeled by various people who were illegal immigrants. Some of them got away. So explain to people again what it's like to be living there on the border and having this fear factor that won't go away.
We get text alerts so that we know to be on the lookout for chases through our town. Hopefully you won't pull out in front of them. It's going this direction, so the schools are not let out. It's a whole other ballgame. However, I would have to tell you that it's been about a year. It's been about a year, and it's very sad how we become more accustomed to things. But my adult children were there with their children. We had 2 golf carts. They're out. Everyone's, they're just experiencing a family time. We get a text that says they have absconded onto Fort Clark Springs, where I live, armed and dangerous. Shots have been exchanged. Please enter your home and be sure your cars are locked. Please stay in your home vigilant until we tell you otherwise. They were never caught that day. We spent 5 hours with my husband in the front of the house with his gun and me watching the windows on the back.
Kelly, that sounds like you're living under siege as opposed to living in the land of the free, which is the United States of America. Your freedoms have been violated based on what you were saying. I've asked several people this when I was there along the border. Do you feel that sovereignty has been lost there?
Completely. I get tears when I say, I am so glad I have helicopters over my house in the morning when I'm having my coffee. I'm glad. I'm also very, very sad that I'm keying into their flight in my brain and hope they're not going to circle back over my house. If there's somebody in my backyard, I would like them to circle back over my house. It's a political, it's a political chess game that's being played out there with our lives. And I understand all that. I understand how money is raised and follows the people, and I understand all that. However, to know every single day that these children, they're coming in, they're on our game cameras out there where there are 12, 13-year-old girls, and the people behind them have long rifles of whatever caliber carrying with these kids. People, we're kind of like the rest of the United States is like, well, we don't see it, but a lot of them do see it. I shouldn't say that. It's everywhere now.
So, look, you were talking about children, and I want to go back to that again, because when I was there, I was able to visit the Cornerstone Children's Ranch. And I discovered there that some of the workers there at Cornerstone Children's Ranch are actually going on to the private properties at the invitation of ranchers to try to help rescue children as young as three years and up rescue them from child smugglers and child traffickers. Is that really happening there? And how devastating is that to the community?
That thing is so vast and big all by itself. So if, they send unaccompanied minors as young as 2. They send them in. They can't talk. They can't identify anybody. They might have a name tag attached to them with a phone number. Okay. The kid someone's going to pick you up. They don't know, oh, I'm his uncle. I'm his aunt. It's not, there's no major vetting. There's no time for it in the numbers coming in. The Biden administration, they haven't accounted for that. I tell people all the time, they're like, how do you account for, how do you deal with this? Well, it searches, it lands on my heart. I search inside for what else can I do? What else can I, we have a duty as adults and Christians to these children to try to save them, It's very hard when you don't know what that enemy looks like. The new SB 5, where, their charges have gone up now for smugglers. Well, that doesn't include children. That does not include females or families. Well, I like the idea that, the smugglees are going to be arrested because it sends back a message. And those are the chess games that I refer to all the time. It's such a chess game. We're going to do this and you're going to see this. I didn't even have to be real anymore. Photo ops and political theater are huge. I can make it look like I'm shutting down the whole border. And I'm not. Unless you're here, you might think that. And so it deters them. I'm glad the numbers are down right now in Texas. Makes me very hopeful for the United States. They're just coming in another area. And those children, back to the children, I'm sorry. I have so much out there and so much knowledge. It's almost kind of scary. They drug those kids. They just drug them, bring them over on their shoulder asleep. You gotta look inside you. What age is the best to do this with? Well, you would think for the market, okay, that's terrible, right? For the sales market of children, that they're looking for 7, 8, depending on the market. But who's the best? It would be the younger children. You get them, they don't remember, they don't know anything, they're sold. It's almost like they're growing children to sell for the future. They're groomed. You can't ever even find where they came from.
So Kelly, does that mean there's a demand for this type of trafficking of young children across the border into America?
Absolutely. You know, somebody asked me, so what do you think is the most lucrative for the cartel? Well, fentanyl. But fentanyl, you're killing your people you're selling to. So that's not necessarily a great business plan. What's your best business plan for them? You have to think outside the box, and you have to understand that for us, we're fighting a war and we're trying to hang on to our way of life. You're fighting big business, big business. Not that this is anything like big tech, but look how the demand was there and it took over and became so much more, worth so much money. That's kind of the same way the child trafficking and human trafficking is. A lot of people think they're the same, human trafficking and sex trafficking. It is and it's not. Human trafficking can be where someone has bought people to go work for 10 years for free so that their business can make more money. Work in the fields, work in factories, that's human trafficking. Why do you think in 15 years they're going to quit collecting from those people? They're slaves. They're slaves for generations because they're going to kill somebody if you don't pay.
And I'm sure there are efforts going on, but as you've indicated to me and others have indicated to me, there is not enough. It isn't all hands on deck. So you're sounding the alarm along with others living in that area. And out of all of the desperate things that you've been watching go on, what is your message to President Biden, to Governor Abbott, to other political people who can actually do something about tightening the border and increasing the security?
It moves so slow for them. Even when good things are being done, and they are. So Biden administration, they keep touting with that, asylum and everything, but and then others said, well, it's just for votes. However, the lives that are lost every single day that they decide what political advantage that they're trying to use or show. And I I Abbott's doing some great things right now. He is doing some things, and that's so important than just going on the news and saying you are. Or I've got photo ops, and we know they're photo ops. They're kind of funny to us. It's not funny as in haha, but it's funny in the fact that the country believes what they see. They believe what they're shown and told and never do any research. I have, I'll call it intel because that sounds really cool, but I get text messages of things. And before I even finish reading them, I'm sending them out to Border Patrol and others and asking, is this true? For my own governor, is this text true? Is this X post true? Because there's a major duty to citizens in my state and my country when I say, oh, we're turning them back, we're now arresting them. You are safer than you were yesterday. Are you? Are you safer than you were yesterday? Because I don't see anything changing. My climate here with the way we're living isn't changing. It hopefully will someday, but it will never, ever. I guess people don't get that. It's never, ever going to go back to what we knew, what we grew up in. I live in such a small town. Our kids don't play outside anymore. You don't sit outside on your porch. Let's spend time with those people who are very smart, intelligent people, and let's rewrite that immigration. Let's look at the broken things and try to fix them. I'm not asking for new laws. I just want somebody to enforce what's already there.
Well, Kelly, I heard very clearly from you as well as other people, there's a frustration. Your hands are being thrown up in the air and you're saying to members of Congress and the president, do something. As you know, Governor Abbott has put the guards there, the Texas Guard. You're getting help from other states. Just a couple of days ago, Governor Kemp of Georgia said that he was sending more troops to the area. Does that help? Are they allowed to do their jobs to provide some interdiction as well as some enforcement?
I think that every person, and I would encourage every governor that's sending somebody, what do you expect? What do you expect from that venture? You're going to send them down here at your expense. What do you want to change? What do you expect to see change? Because I would, people are welcome to tell me I'm wrong. I happen to know I am not, and it's so sad, but they sent DPS in for a while from other states. Florida gladly stepped up very, very fast. Very proud of them. Those DPS came and rode with my DPS. They rode my DPS. And my DPS is chasing the same people. And And when they caught them, they turned them over to Border Patrol that let them go. So can we come together? Could these governors actually meet with military presence with them and come up with a real plan? This thing is not, the border's not just a line of water and things are one way on one side and one way on the other. This goes, it goes to the UN. Where there's money, you're going to see people doing everything they can. So how does that make sense to any of us? Any of us, that my tax dollars and yours, everybody watching, we are sending money to the UN, who is getting people to come to the United States to become part of our country, but not a part of our country to add to it, but to draw it down. Now, that's not in every case. I recognize that, but can we find that line and put it into place? But we're not. You and I and everybody else are funding our own demise. And how does that make sense to anybody? We're funding our own demise.
That is a powerful statement that you just made. We're funding our own demise. Based on that, I still sense in you that you hold out hope for America. What is that hope?
It used to be really big hope. And the more that I saw politically, the sadder I became. You can't just close the border. You can't just shut the door. That is a huge business. Huge, bigger than we are, evidently, because it's continued to grow for 3 years, and we haven't been able to really stop their business. It's going to take a lot more oversight than what we're offering at this point. We have to know what every part of our government, as far as the military and the law enforcement, and what's being done over there before they even come through the Darien Gap. This isn't just something that happens. You can't just shut the door. They're just going to climb over the fence and build a window. It's bigger than that. It's easier as a rhetoric for people to understand to just say that. But that's not what it is. It's so much bigger. And right now, from what I've seen, especially by the Biden administration, you can say you're fighting it, but the numbers speak for themselves. And until people get out and vote and fight for what's right and fight for the future of their children, we're going downhill, just like we're going downhill now. I really, but Trump says, we're going to send them all back. I love that. That can't happen. There are so many children that will be born over as soon as they get here. The more children that they have, those are anchor babies. These people are not going back. And we can sit here and pretend, but it would make more sense to figure out how to make them stronger and better in our communities for the ones that are here, and not just keep giving them handouts so that is a learned thing for them and their children and adult children. Let's teach them the right way. But that's bigger than I am. I like to think that we could do something like that, but I don't. As Republicans, as whoever we are, as people, we just kind of like look at the problem and look at that problem, try to deal with it as it's happening, and we don't make plans for the future for the problems that are already here.
Kelly, I want to thank you for joining us and sharing your insights about what's happening in terms of the crisis at the border. I'm sure we'll be having more discussions in the future, and my hope for you is that there will be help, not only for you, but for all of your neighbors and all the people living there. I appreciate you for joining us on America's Hope. I'd like to thank all of the guests who appeared on tonight's program. And my final word is based on what they've been able to tell me in terms of their plight as American citizens living on border towns along the U.S.-Mexico border. Their concern is that many of us in America are not paying close enough attention to the plight they're encountering. They say there is a clear and present danger not only for the people living in those communities, but for the country at large. And they're sounding the alarm, saying, America, wake up, because what's happening there can be happening at a town or a city near you. And they're also sending a clear message to the President of the United States as well as members of Congress, and that is, do something. Get your act together, they say. Get beyond the politics and get down to the brass tacks of taking care of your fundamental responsibility, and that is to protect America against enemies, foreign and domestic. The bottom line is people in Texas are saying enough is enough. Let's come together, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that includes protecting our sovereignty and our freedom. Until next time, America, good night. God bless.